This is Dan Rochelle from Meet the 818, and we are here with Jennifer Soto, creator of Convo Threads. Hi, Jen. How are you today?
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you for coming in. So I brought you in because we wanted to kind of find out more about your brand, Convo Threads, and all that. So tell me a little bit about yourself and about the brand.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for allowing me to speak my mind and everything. Convo Threads is very personal to me, and how it has transpired, especially through COVID, has been very interesting and heavy and emotional all at once, especially trying to launch and relaunch the brand. But the messages behind it, first and foremost, I myself, I'm just a fighter for many purposes that are important, worldly type news and everything that affect, me and the communities around us. So I'm very passionate about those messages. And I hold many different, titles as a business owner and CPA, but despite those professions are just different, important hats we all need to play in this lifetime, and especially through COVID, wearing all of them while trying to go through it has been very tough. So, and I too have lost my husband. So with that kind of transition to create a brand, a typographic brand, both on apparel as well as just my word, Convo Threads has multiple meanings. You have the threads of apparel as well as the conversation threads that we build with the communities. I'm very much multi-driven thought processes, which is what Convo Threads is. I wouldn't say simply about, because I'm very, very complex, and it's more of like, how does it apply to you or just to anyone in general? There are 3 lines in the brand, one of which, thank you for that Take Flight shirt behind you.
Of course.
That in particular is almost the backbone of the brand. It does take a lot of strength and backbone to create your own movement. Not myself, but for whoever is in any kind of circumstances that's difficult. One of the things is fight and flight. If people are or aren't aware, fight or flight is a physiological response. Mm-hmm. Someone wants to fight through it or they flee from the scene. But fight and flight, I include the ampersand, which has been very meaningful to me, especially through COVID. And as I created this is that we fight through all of our circumstances. You and I have different stories that we've lived through, and no matter what it has been, we never really flee from it. We go through it and we take flight from the experience. So give it more of a positive spin to a choice that sometimes is hard to really fathom, and is just kind of like handed to us, no matter what our cards have been dealt. So, I thank you for your support with that. I hope, behind that is meaningful to you as well. I too have this conversation changes judgments. It's a very casual lifestyle type of vibe as far as the apparel line goes, because my late husband and I were very much like that, very comfortable driven. We'll wear what we'd like, but it's what's inside internally that counts. And you'd really need to converse with me to understand me even more. Even though I could be laid back here, I'm very logical, creative here. And it's about building that kind of camaraderie, hopefully, mm-hmm. to understand each other more. And especially through COVID, it's been very important to understand that. So that is the second line. The first is that fight and flight. The second is this convo line. And the third is the equity line. Create value and build equity. Sure, I'm very literal and figurative. So of course, literally, we want to understand our finances, the jobs that we decided to do, and understand the aspects of building equity, like the monetarily values so that we fund the things we love to do. That's very important. But then also the internal equities that makes us feel whole, the passions that really drive us, the hobbies. I mean, my husband has been very much, my husband and I very much would love to fund the expensive hobbies that we'd love to be a part of that makes us feel more driven. And so that's kind of the gist of all of those all of these parts of the brand, which makes it very complex, but simple at the same time, especially when on the offset, we are our own walking brand anyways. So, you know, if someone kind of reads that, take flight, how does that apply to me? Or conversation changes judgment, how does that apply to me? That in itself has already done its purpose for me, because just to create some kind of thought process or an idea of its own application to self is already kind of meaningful and what I'd like to do with the brand. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. So what drew me to your brand, honestly, is just Convo Threads. I thought it was really, what is the word? It was really relevant how threads connecting people was tied into a clothing brand and the messages that you wanted to portray or to relay to the community. So with that in mind, like, what would be your main message with your brand? I mean, I know you spoke like the 3 different service lines that you have, but if you put all that together, what do you think the heart of Convo Threads is?
It truly has kind of been a journey to self. Because, you know, I wouldn't say, yeah, so I did lose my husband in August 2019, and I lost 4 more very influential men in my life who, both through family as well as where I've worked, and has, you know, the managing partner of my firm passed away, who has been very influential to my professional progress. And, you know, they've seen my progress and hustle in the work, but then also understood how my husband's health conditions, how that played out in how I convey myself. You know, I'm very dedicated in what I do as much as I could. That, you know, the idea of just burnout just is what it is. And so after transpiring that type of exponential growth so fast in both my career and personal life, and after losing him and creating this both complex idea and going through COVID and you know, going through different types of traumas, is that it still ends up being a journey to yourself. Mm-hmm. And those 3 things, at least to me and to my late husband, have been very important to understand ourselves and to almost counter the negative emotions with something that helps complement where we lack. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but it's hard for me to really describe who my avatar is, because I have gone through, like, you know, these business things. They're like, oh, who's your avatar? Who's your perfect client? And I will honestly say, I can't really have a perfect client. It's more of like, what really applies to you? Because I can give you those types of services. Do you like a brand? I got that. Do you want my voice? I have that. Do you want performing arts? I can do that. Convo Threads is the expression, like, relative to each individual person. And it's almost like understanding each other's differences in how it applies to each other is almost like the main message behind it, which is what I'm hoping to build with it. And I mean, I'd like to say and share that, you know, despite having the actual inventory that the investment has been made, mm-hmm. I know voice through 2020 has already transpired globally anyway. I wouldn't say because of me by any means, but like the trickle of all of our change, you know, we are the change we want to see in the world. And like, I do see it. And it's amazing too. And it's just hoping to be a part of that change that will just continue to trickle positively.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Actually, it's funny because the way I saw your pop-up shop a couple of weeks ago when you were at Cafe Aficionado, and just it was a challenging day because it was super windy, but your fighting spirit and how you just dealt with the situation was just, it was reflective of the brand that you were trying to give out. Just kind of like, you know what, whatever life throws at you, just have at it. Just go through it and just, it'll be okay in the end. So that's what I was thinking to myself as I was, I was at that pop-up, and I was just like, wow, Jen really has, her brand really does reflect the spirit within her, the spirit to just fight on despite of what life gives her, and just like let things roll, like just roll with the punches. And I think with me personally, that kind of resonated with me with Convo Threads. So that impact was just like, she's authentic and she just the strength is there. So as a woman, as a Filipina, that kind of resonated with me with when I was, going through your brand. And I mean, Take Flight. This is when you were explaining it on your, I think it was your Instagram or your website. I wasn't 100% sure, but when you were explaining it as this is where your backbone is, and it's kind of like it gives you wings, like where where your wings are supposed to be and all that. So I was like, I like that. That resonates a lot. So what you have brought out there had such great impact. So
I appreciate that. I mean, one of the purposeful part of at least that design, it's kind of hard to see, but on both sides are my late husband's initials, SS, on the there, like next to the F, yeah, on those sides, kind of the connectors for my wings to fly. That one in particular is called Wings to Fly, and I do have another one back, Heart and Backbone, but similarly, in any given situation, we just got to take flight from the experience. Yeah.
Of course, of course. In the foreseeable, actually, no, in the present or even the foreseeable future, how do you think Convo Threads as a brand and as your voice would impact the community on a bigger level or on a personal level, or
I'd like to confidently think it already has. In the instances of my voice through COVID, just because, I mean, I do have my own Instagram where I just speak my mind at that moment. I'm very much raw driven, like how I feel, I just want to share it. It's almost as though like it's a live journal, right? It's just, I risk putting my own, persona out there, and vulnerability for almost someone to just both eat up and learn from, or take away or hate, like any kind of emotion out there that I too sometimes have to, I wouldn't say not care by any means, because I care a lot. But it's almost necessary in my own opinion, because it is a hard time. And I've grown many years very on, and there are very few of whoever I've grown around with who too needed to kind of like wake up very early, either through loss and through grief, and very, very traumatizing experiences. So I'd like to think in both the short term and long term, whoever I have met and continue to meet, like we all just are trickling changes, positive changes of each other. And I mean, there are bigger things, especially, Convo Threads, the service aspect of it is very public speaking oriented. It's education, because I too am very for equity, is for the youth, teaching youth, financial and tax education. And that's also my background and profession. and fitness, health and wellness is very important to me. And I am like also a fitness instructor as well. Like the fight and flight, the figurative aspect of it is like, I mean, I have found my release and strength in martial arts. So, you know, it is also like both a natural release in our breath, because breath is very important to us, rather than, at least for me, the needs for any types of vices to go through the emotions. I'm not discounting those who do or don't need to, because sure, I too have maybe had a drink here and there to just calm my nerves down. But nothing is really the wrong way as long as we're mindful about it. And I just think in the long term, how we convey those types of messages to be both good to ourselves on the decisions, and it just, I do see just a bigger change in the long run anyways. And I mean, I'd love to take it to the stage. I'd love to be a part of different collaborations and brands as well. But yeah, it's still in process though, as I too go through my own grieving process, and as much as everyone else.
Got it. No, it's so funny because I was going to ask you, the next question was, where did you see the brand in the future? But you kind of answered that already. So, but it's good that each service line has, you already have some plans in the future to impact certain aspects of the community, which is great, because we need, my personal thing, I think we need strong female voices out there to kind of, you know, just be a part of the community and just impact the community on a on any kind of level, personal, general, global, you know, what have you. So absolutely. So with that, with all these things that you're planning already, what do you think would be the organic next step of the brand, or where do you think this will be heading, you know, in like a year from now? We're not going to even say 5 years from now. That's a little too far. You know, not even like just, you know, just a year or probably a couple months.
You know, if we're talking about, I guess, realistic goals, if there's one thing that I haven't been able to successfully do yet is to truly launch the websites for the brand and multiple services for it. So it's more of back end work that I need to just more streamline for myself, on top of the other many hats outside of this business that I need to wear. But I'd like at least to have something up and running and have a system in play, and, you know, potentially have a team, and especially my parents around to help me get through it all. I like near future. I mean, there are many big things I'd love to do. Is like being with you right now is very meaningful to me, and I'd love to have a lot more of these, like for the rest of the year. And like it really is community driven, and especially at that Cafe Aficionado, having more instances to build community conversation and networking, and just understanding where people are going and what they stand for too, is just that's what makes me whole. So that, along with just the website for being able to sell it, is hopefully my short-term goal.
Oh man, I can't wait where you go from here. I mean, honestly, I think actually our common friend, Tony Rose, when you had a podcast, The Glass Room. So I listened to it because, you know, you have to support your friends. So that's that, just the way you spoke about your personal life and wanting to change things, and just, you know, just making sure that authentic conversation is happening, you know, within yourself, with others. That's huge, you know. And I think a lot of that still needs to be going on in this day and age.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll share too, you know, sometimes, especially being in this medium, it's just me and the camera, and whether or not I get feedback or not, sometimes I'd love to have that, but otherwise it's just out there. And at this point, it's more like how it applies to you is what it is. And, you know, sometimes having or not having the feedback, that's also important to me. So I think that's why having more of a community aspect has been very meaningful too, because I mean, I am naturally an emotional person, and if I do get the criticism for things that I do share or don't share, you know, like that also impacts me emotionally, and how do I deal with that, you know? But it's with the experience too. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered a lot about just the brand.
Yeah.
A lot more. I mean, I hope to see many of our fellow, you know, vendors, people, customers, just anyone in general. It'd be great.
Awesome. Do you have any future events that they can kind of come up and visit you, or
So I think at this time, you know, when I pop up with the apparel, I do currently at Cafe Aficionado. It seems to be planned every 2 weeks. So today was, you know, one of those days. So maybe 2 weeks from now. I do also do some kickboxing instruction in various gyms. But if they would like to, you know, follow me on Instagram, Jennifer Soto is my Instagram for that. And Convo Threads is also the Instagram for the apparel line and services hoping to be built. So more information will be there. If anyone would like to just understand me personally and see a lot of my highlights of what I convey every month or every day, this generation is also my Instagram for that, more of like a personal blog / kind of like a live journal. And that's this generation with the J. Yeah. But yes, that's what now. Hope to see everyone there.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jen. I appreciate you having this conversation with me and just taking the time out to just, you know, tell us about Convo Threads and everything. So we'll see you around. Hopefully we'll do a second interview with like a bigger project that you have down the line or what have you.
I thank you so much for this time. It means so much to me.
Awesome. Thank you.